doing what you can do. And this is very important for all of us. And this goes to a statement that was made in 1985, where the superiority of a white man. And also in the process was castigating the capacity of black people. And in some of the statements, he went on to say, we are actually what should be used by white people to realize their objective. And I'm saying this because it is still lingering in many other people's
Honorable Premier,
and
could you please raise your voice a little? They are saying for recording purposes, they cannot hear your voice.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was audible. I'm saying all these, Madam Speaker, were creation of our own imagination. We are all human beings. We all want the best for our children. We all want the generation that is to follow must actually get the best from us. But the way we get to argue some of this stuff, point scoring all the time we coming here, it is not helping all of us in realizing this objective. It invites the worst in all of us, and we are resisting that temptation. We must build this province. This is a province that was deliberately neglected. It was meant to be just an enclave, a safety haven for white Afrikaners. And that is why from every corner, industrialization was not allowed to happen here. Now that we are starting that journey, now that we are starting strongly on this journey to realize everything that we have and use it to the best interest of our people, this is the giant waiting to be awakened. Free State has everything. It has the people with passion. They understand where they're coming from. You've got Afrikaners, farmers, that are willing to work to make sure this province become the best. There are English people who are determined to do everything to make sure that this beautiful province becomes one of the best. There are many African people who are committed, despite their history and everything, to say, let's work together. We've demonstrated that over and over and over again, but every time we are punched in the face. We are seen as weaklings. We don't want to go to a level where we would be reacting in a manner like this province with all of you. And even if some of you believe that we are not capable here this side, we will demonstrate, not to prove to you, but to ensure that the people of the Free State get the best. And maybe afterwards, you'll realize that we meant every word we said when we delivered our state of the province. Our people deserve the best from all of us. Let us work together in building a better country, a better Free State. We cannot be all happy that the Free State, with all the resources, minerals that it has, it is at the state that it is in. And we need to ensure that our people, this is a very important resource. They are very important to us. Get the best in terms of training, in terms of skilling, and make sure that they participate in the economy of our country. And that we can do when this house is in order, when this house stands together and raise issues where they are not happy. But it should not be raised from racial undertones. It should not be raised from a point where I'm superior, you are inferior. I am better, I know better. You don't know anything. And that will not help this province. It will surely not help your cause too. So I ask you, forget all this bickering and work for the better province, all of us. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable members, we now move to motions in terms of Rule 187 to 188, the tabling of money bills. And we proceed to the first motion. The Deputy Secretary shall read motion 1.
That leave be granted for the tabling of the 2023-2024 Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill, Bill 1 of 2024.
The Honorable MEC for Finance, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I move.
Any discussion? Any objection? Leave granted. The Honorable MEC may table the 2023-2024 Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill B1-2024. The Deputy Secretary shall read the bill for the first time.
2023-2024 Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill, Bill 1 of 2024.
The Honorable MEC may present an introductory speech on the bill.
Igamela Makoskas. Honorable Speaker, Mazanela Sifuba, the Honorable Premier of the Free State Province, Ntate Mkolisi Dukwana, members of the Executive Council and members of the Free State Provincial Legislature. Honorable Speaker, through you, for this adjustment bill, I would like to respect and establish the protocol that the Honorable Speaker set before me, all protocol observed. Honorable Speaker, this is a short presentation, and thank you for the opportunity provided to table the 2023-24 Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill to this Honorable House. This Second Adjustment Bill or budget is occasioned by the following. In terms of the Public Finance Management Act, it allows the MEC, in terms of Section 31, to table an adjustment budget which provides for appropriation of funds that became available to the province, unforeseeable and avoidable expenditure recommended by the Provincial Executive Council, and that's the members of the executive, in terms of the framework determined by the Minister of Finance, any expenditure for emergency situations as prescribed by Section 25 of the PFMA, money to be appropriated for the expenditure already announced by the MEC of Finance during the table of an annual budget or an adjustment budget, and then of course the utilization of savings under a main division within a vote for the defrayment of excess expenditure from another main division in terms of Section 43 of the PFMA. And then lastly, the rollover of unspent funds from a preceding financial year. Honourable Speaker, when we tabled this budget in the 2023-24 adjustment budget, we allocated additional funds to address municipal service budget pressures. We also noted the funds allocated were not sufficient to cover the pressures on municipal services for the current financial year, and therefore the second adjustment mainly caters for additional allocations to municipalities for municipal services. The reprioritization of funds, Honourable Speaker and Honourable Premier, we were able to identify amounts of 155.529 million. When we tabled the first 23-24 budget, we set aside an amount of 100 million as part of an unallocated budget proposed for allocation in the 23-24 second adjustment budget, and that largely was raised by revenue within the province. We propose today, Madam Speaker, that a total amount of 255.529 million for the second adjustment budget, and that is due to the province exceeding its revenue targets. Congratulations to all those departments who subsequently provided that very, very deep pocket in raising that revenue. With that said, Honourable Speaker, 13.5 million to the Provincial Legislature for political funding, convening of the 2024 State of the Province address and the State of the Main Budget Address. 13.8 million to the Office of the Premier to cater for the coordination of service delivery programs and strengthening government communication. 3 million to the Department of Economic, Small Business Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, and that largely is for the successful Provincial Investment Summit that was held, Free State Investment Conference, and for the maintenance of the Maluti-Apofung Special Economic Zone. 12.5 million to the Department of Health for maintenance of clinics and inclusion of provision to Reedus Park, Tandanani and Boitumelo clinics. 1.5 million to social development to support the elderly who are invited for Golden Games in Mpumalanga, as well as their contribution to NGOs within the province. 109 million to public works and infrastructure for the pressures on municipal services. 97 million to community safety, roads and transport for the procurement of yellow fleet, face value documents for the registration authorities, and it must be noted that out of this 97 million, an amount of 57 million is reprioritized internally within the department towards minimizing unwanted and unauthorized pressures. 4 million to the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development for food security programs, and 1.2 million for the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation to support the development of professional football in the province. Honourable Speaker, with the exception of COCTA, Agriculture and Sports, Arts and Culture, we have seen that every single department had an increase in allocation during the adjustment process from the initial main appropriation to the adjustment appropriation. I thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
What does the Honourable MEC propose?
That the bill be referred to the Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts and Finance, as well as the Committee on Budget and Oversight for consideration and report back to the House.
Any discussion? Any objection? Approved. The bill stands. Referred to the Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts and Finance, as well as the Committee on Budget and Oversight for consideration and report back to the House. We proceed to motion 2. The Deputy Health Secretary shall read motion 2.
That leave be granted for the tabling of the 2024-2025 appropriation bill B2 of 2024.
The Honourable MEC, Ms. Brown.
Honourable Speaker, I move.
Any discussion? Honourable MEC may table the 2024-25 appropriation bill B2 of 2024. The Deputy Secretary shall read the bill for the first time.
(2024-2025) Appropriation Bill, Bill 2 of 2024.
The Honorable MEC may now address the House.
Thank you once, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Mazanile Sifuba, Honorable Premier Ntati Mkolisi Dukwana, the Deputy Speaker, Malusi Mapena, Chief Whip of our Provincial Legislature, Masara Moleleki, Chairpersons of the Committees of Provincial Legislature and our Chairperson of our committee, Honorable Bulwani, the Deputy Ministers who are present today, members of the Executive Council and the Leader of Government Business, Ntati Makume, members of the Free State Provincial Legislature, esteemed members of the Judiciary, members of the National Assembly and the NCOP, Her Excellency Ambassador from the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela, Ms. Mayrin Josefina Moreno Merida, His Excellency from the Republic of Cuba, Mr. Enrique Horta Gonzalez, Morena Mopedi, Morena Moloi, Morena Pelani, all leaders of the traditional houses and councils, and specifically the Khoisan, Provincial Commissioners of South African Police Services, the Hawks, and Correctional Services, leaders of Chapter 9 institutions, representatives of AGSA, Mr. Adwa and Mr. Lutando, the South African Reserve Services, Matozi, leaders of the African National Congress and the Alliance who are present here today, executive mayors, representatives and leadership of SALGA, board members and CEOs of state-owned institutions, as well as board members, chairpersons, and CEOs of the relevant SETAs in the House, the Director General, and all HODs, the German Global African Herbal Solutions, Dr. Marange, heads of respective departments as mentioned, representative of the Wall Street Stock Exchange, Mr. Jamaluddin, CEOs of public and private institutions, municipal managers, leaders of industry, academia, business, banking institutions, civil society. I don't see my kids in the house yet, but they should be here shortly. Faith-based institutions, and more specifically, the honored students who were part of our budget speech competition, those in the overflow, members of the media, those who are in the house, and of course, all distinguished guests online and within the house. Good afternoon. In the name of God, the most beneficial, the most merciful. Honorable Speaker, this year, 2024, marks the 30th anniversary of our democracy, a reminder of the tense negotiations and years of liberation struggle by leaders, people and individuals who organized themselves in unity to fight for a common cause, for a liberated, free South Africa, which changed the history of our country. It also reminds us of the effort that it took to craft the Freedom Charter, where the ANC in 1955 sent out 50,000 volunteers into townships, villages, and in those years something called the countryside, to collect freedom demands from the people of South Africa. Through you, Speaker, allow me to offer a reminder to all. The Freedom Charter is a statement of core principles of the South African Congress Alliance, which is constituted of the African National Congress, the ANC, and its allies, the South African Indian Congress, the South African Congress of Democrats, and the Colored People's Congress, which is categorized by its opening demand, the people shall govern. Furthermore, the principles of this Freedom Charter is enshrined in our beautiful Constitution, Honorable Speaker, in which we have committed to building a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society which guarantees a better life for all. Today, we are tabling a provincial budget during an electoral season. It is time for our citizenry to exercise its power by participating in this democratic process and exercising their democratic rights by ensuring that they are registered to vote and by casting their votes. Yes, indeed, the people shall govern. Thank you in advance to the thousands of volunteers of all political parties and representatives of the Electoral Commission for the work and the sacrifices that you have made and will make during and to ensure a free and fair election on the 29th of May 2024. Madam Speaker, I'm honored to be tabling the following documents before this august House today. The 2024-25 Appropriation Bill, the 24-25 Estimate of Provincial Revenue and Expenditure, the 24-25 People's Guide to the Budget, it's in your packs and online, the 24 Provincial Economic Review Outlook, which is also online, and the 24 Municipal Economic Outlook, which is also online. These documents are tabled after His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa presented his State of the Nation address, after the Minister of Finance presented his medium-term budget policy statement, and after the Free State Province Premier Ndati Nkolisi Dukwana presented the State of the Province address. This just reiterates, Honourable Speaker, that these processes are fully inclusive. It has received the attention from 3 spheres of government, intense consultation between national, provincial, and local governments, and intense planning. Honourable Speaker, our first democratic president, Tata Nelson Mandela, once said, "Do not look the other way. Do not hesitate. Recognize that the world is hungry for action, not for words. Act with courage and vision." And in order to display the action that Tata alluded to as we present the last budget of the 6th administration, we will provide our review of the performance to our citizens, as well as a framework of the 24-25 medium-term expenditure framework as we pass this baton over to the 7th administration. Honourable Speaker, to provide perspective on the current state of the economy and the economic outlook, I'd like to start with the global economic outlook. Global economic growth decelerated to about 3.1% in 2023, and the latest economic forecast, Honourable Speaker, by the International Monetary Fund earlier this year expects global growth to remain unchanged at 3.1% in 2024 before rising to 3.2% in 2025. However, the aggressive tightening of the monetary stance by central banks to curb elevated inflation rates has resulted faster than expected disinflation in many economies across the globe, at some 80% of world economies that are anticipated to see lower than average headline and core inflation in 2024. Specifically, the elevated global inflation of 6.8% recorded in 2023, which is anticipated to slow down about 5.8% in 2024, with a further decline to 4.4% in 2025. Likewise, Honourable Speaker, inflation is anticipated to ease by a mere 0.2 percentage points to 2.6% in advanced economies and 0.3% in emerging economies, and we're looking at a percentage point of 8.1% in emerging market and developing economies in 2024. Madam Speaker, however, it is worth mentioning that the projected positive outlook for the global economy is highly susceptible to some significant downside risks. Among others, rising geopolitical tensions that threaten our regional integration. Example, the ongoing Russia and Ukraine war, the Israel-Palestine war, increased global trade fragmentation exacerbated by the imposition of around 3,000 trade restriction measures across countries in 2023, and a continued deceleration in China's economic growth fueled by the real estate and property crisis. the resurgence of the global supply constraints associated with continued attack on large cargo ships in the Red Sea and the weather shocks, unfortunately, especially in the high anticipated El Nino phenomenon, these combined effects, unfortunately, of these risks could dampen global growth. So that is at a macro level. That is what's happening in the global economy. So as it's combined, it heightens global inflation. It's got a threat towards food security, commodity shocks resulting in volatile movement of prices of crude oil, which means that prices will go up. Food, energy, transportation costs, that means your back pocket will be affected. Yes, it will. Domestic economic outlook based on IMF projections in real term and the South African economy is unfortunately projected to grow by just 0.4%. And then, of course, 1% later in 2024. So before rising to the 1.3% in 2025, the National Treasury forecasted an average growth of 1.4% from 24 to 2026, and the latest medium-term budget policy statement also reiterates that. Unfortunately, Honourable Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, these projections are unable to support the much-needed accelerated growth and inclusive development to tackle the perennial problems of high unemployment rates, poverty and income, inequality facing this country. Akin to global disinflation trajectory, the recent Consumer Price Index, your CPI, published by Stats South Africa, reveals that headline inflation to 6% in 2023, and the South African Reserve Bank expects headline inflation to slow down by 5.0% in 2024 and 4.6% in 2025. So this inflation expectation behind the Monetary Policy Committee's rationale for interest rate hikes reprieve leaves the repo rate at 8.25% and a prime lending rate 11.7%. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to fix your interest rates or go have a discussion with your bank. In the short and medium term, the economic outlook for South Africa could be worsened by some structural and endogenous constraints in the domestic economy, which includes the consistent electricity supply shortages. And His Excellency, the President, raised key reforms in that space. His Excellency, the Premier, raised provincial reforms in that space. So whilst we're dealing with electricity supply, it could shave off 3% to 0.3% to 0.5% of our domestic growth. Domestic supply and logistic constraints due to deteriorating rail and infrastructure, road networks, rising fiscal risks includes lower than expected revenue growth, the public wage bill that is growing, high gross government debt and high servicing costs, and hence conversations with Transnet, hence a Free State Investment Conference, and hence a reigniting and re-engineering strategy for this province so that we could mitigate these unfortunate external risks that we are seeing in our country and in our province. So whilst we see a weaker rand exchange rate, low business confidence to attract foreign investors, stifled employment opportunities, and eroded household income, the province is saying this, ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier. The Free State Province still faces the battle of high unemployment rates, high poverty rates, inequality. The recent fourth quarter labour force data shows a decline in the provincial official unemployment rate, which was positive in the last quarter, from 38.5% to 37% in the last quarter of 2023. Although reflecting a decrease of the percentage point, Madam Speaker, which is a positive attribute to this province, but in real terms, the sustainability and the growth within those percentage points has to come by both the private sector and the public sector. And as we project growth of the Free State economy, we would rely on performance of sectors such as community services, finance, agriculture, as well as mining, trade, manufacturing, and these are all expected to contribute sectoral growth of nearly 29.6%, 19.5%, 12.9%, and 9.8% respectively. On the other hand, transport and agriculture sectors forecasted, Honourable Speaker, to contribute growth of about 6.8% and 6% respectively. And of course, in terms of provincial growth, whilst electricity sector is anticipated to produce a mere growth of 2%, we are hopeful. Speaker, given the provincial economic outlook, the labour market performance, and what has become important to vigorously pursue remedial policy actions that support job creation, socio-economic and economic reforms, we would like to outline what does this really mean to the Free State Province. And we'd like to break that down to you shortly. So, Honourable Speaker, as we are doing that, what does this really mean for Nkhonne Moapi, who is living in Lindley, or Ntata Mweketi, who is living in Rates? Well, I'd like to begin by welcoming the Minister of Finance and his introduction of innovative reforms on the gold and foreign exchange contingency reserve account. The Minister was able to raise reserves of 150 billion rand. And let me explain what that means to the province. 150 billion rand is an amount equivalent to the value of our equitable share over the next 3 years. That's how much the province is getting over the next 3 years. That's what the Minister raised. But if you really want to look at the movement in goods and services, it's equivalent to half of the Free State's GDP. Given the known economic challenges that the world is facing, Honourable Speaker, and that what is happening geopolitically, the effect results in South Africa experiencing a growing budget deficit, which means that if we had to borrow more from our traditional lenders like the IMF, we would increase debt service costs, and it would mean that these funds allocated to the province would be less because we'd have to service those debt servicing costs. And your kids and our grandkids would still be servicing that debt. So less funds would be injected into development, social infrastructure, and socio-economic imperatives, and the protection of these budgets, which the Minister has done so tirelessly, specifically in health, education, social protection, safety and security, remains a core priority not only for this province but for the country. A pro-poor budget. So the introduction of the gold and foreign exchange contingency reserve account and the adjustment bill, together with the proposed structural reforms and other initiatives, will move us closer to stabilization of our debt to GDP and our budget deficit. It should, however, be coupled with hard work that lies ahead. And that hard work lying ahead is to fund and invest in growth and igniting the economy. So thank you. Yes, we're going to do that. Thank you, MECs. So whilst we are doing that, Honourable Speaker, let us reflect on what we've done in the sixth administration. So 5-year expenditure and impact analysis, which intent was to analyze and see the change that the spatial and racial characteristics of our democratic society, specifically focusing on the past term. The medium-term expenditure framework budget of the Free State Province from 2019 to 2024 amounted to 200.9 billion rand, ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Speaker. That averages a budget of 40.18 billion rand year on year. And our conditional grants, that is part of the 200 billion, over the 5 years amounted to 43 billion and on average 8.6 billion year on year. Conditional grants comes with certain conditions that deals with the pro-poor policy requirement that the Minister of Finance sets together with sector departments at a cabinet level. So reflecting back on the financial health and liquidity and cash position of this province, Honourable Speaker, the provincial net cash position improved considerably over the past 5 years. In March 2019 and in March 2020, the province closed the financial year on a negative cash position. However, in the past 3 financial years, our cash position at the end of the financial years were positive. We were investing money. I'm also happy to announce that in the past 3 years, the province did not utilize an overdraft facility from the Reserve Bank, as well as our provincial banker. I'm sorry, Provincial Bank, you didn't make too much money off us, right? So, whilst we did not use an overdraft, we further built reserves within our province, and with that intent, we were able to mitigate the challenges of climate change, disasters, and emergencies to proactively attend to some of our socio-economic responsibilities for the province. Let us also reflect on the last speech and the last 5 speeches on job creation initiatives and economic drivers. We'll start with employment. We'll start to focus with employment, Honourable Speaker. South Africa continues to grapple with high unemployment rates. The national government's relentless efforts to implement growth, enhancing economic reforms, envisioned in the presidency's Operation Vulindlela initiatives, as well as the continued funding of the likes of EPWP and the Presidential Employment Initiative, amongst others, they are making gradual inroads. But we have to work towards more strengthened and permanent positions and job creation. So whilst we're doing that, Honourable Speaker, and Honourable Premier, with the budget that we received as a province between 2019 and 1920 to 23 and 24, we created 282,907 work opportunities against a 5-year target of 260 work opportunities through EPWP. Yes, we have exceeded our target, ladies and gentlemen, and we will continue as we hand this baton over to the 7th administration. This leadership is still prioritizing work opportunities within this province. So we'd like to see a steady downward trajectory towards unemployment, which, as was stated, recorded from 38.5 to 37% in the last 2 quarters. But Honourable Speaker, how do we intend to do that? And let's start with primary sectors. Mining and agriculture is a foundational to the majority of the economic activity and the secondary and tertiary sectors, meaning that our primary sector provides the foundation for more growth in the secondary and tertiary sectors of our economy. And this means that as we're looking towards focusing on a primary sector, industrialization, manufacturing, and beneficiation has to happen. So allow me to quote something from Lochner Marais from the Urban Forum, who writes, and I quote, "Mine downscaling is a common international phenomenon, and de-industrialization related to mining that occurred in the global north between the 1960s and the 1990s, which has been a focus in numerous studies." So disinvestment in mining just did not happen in the Free State, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like us to repeat that. Disinvestment in mining happened all around the world. So during the 6th administration, we had to find ways of alternative investment. And that alternative investment in industries, such as the discovery of the gas pipeline in Machabeng and others, the diversification of Harmony Gold to copper, the stone aggregate that we're seeing in the Tabung Futsanyana district, the salt that we're seeing in Wepener and south to Mangaung, the development of SMMEs that we are working and concentrating on, and formalizing small businesses, including those zama-zamas, bringing them to book, getting them formalized, and investment in rural economies. Since 2019, the province has invested an amount of 4.041 billion in agriculture. Honourable Speaker, a major investment which sustains this province as the #1 producer in the country for the following commodities: maize, beef, slaughtering, soya beans, sunflower, potato, groundnuts, and others. And this comes from an abstract from agriculture statistics and industry data. Note that my discussion is well researched, Honourable Speaker. On water and sanitation, thank you very much. On water and sanitation, since 2019, between national, provincial, and local government, the province spent 4.8 billion. I'm delighted to announce that the number of households that had access to sanitation in 2019 increased from 82.3% to 87.4%. Yes, please give us a round of applause. We have experienced an upward improvement regarding access to piped water, and increased from 91.9% to 94.1%. Maofi, Honorable Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. However, the quality of water needs to be worked on, Honorable Speaker. And with that said, we intend, apart from some of the Green Scorpions and some of our environmentalists, together with the National Department of Water and Sanitation, over in the 7th of Administration, there is a task team that the Honorable Premier has put together to ensure that this does happen. Honorable Speaker, we will also note that the Honorable Premier's office, in terms of these statistics, have completed a 5-year monitoring and evaluation report that provides us with these detailed statistics. In terms of energy security, the successful energy Indaba brings much desired investment in the energy sector. I will not reiterate, as the Honorable Premier stated this in his State of the Province address. However, the number of households connected to electricity since 2019 increased from 91.6% to 93.4% in our province. The province's current energy consumption, our current energy consumption for the province, ladies and gentlemen, and Honorable Speaker, is 1,505 megawatts, whilst we hold the current capacity of 4,133 megawatts, and this comes from Eskom in our province. And we wish to plan for a future capacity of 14,063 megawatts, and I'll explain why the future capacity is that big based on all the plans that the 7th Administration would have in place based on the Free State Growth and Development Strategy. The vision of our Premier to position the Free State Province as the energy hub of the country and potentially the continent, will indeed meet the dream of combating unemployment, poverty, and equality, ladies and gentlemen. To address the debt burden on municipalities, 11 municipalities have been approved, including Mangaung metropolitan municipalities, so that debt relief that National Treasury had pronounced last year, 11 of our municipalities have been approved. They applied, they went through a process, and they have been approved. And we're very excited, Honorable Premier. And as the Honorable Premier stated in the province, we will continue to support these 11 municipalities. The task team comprised of Provincial Treasury, National Treasury, COCTA, and SALGA has been established to support and monitor these municipalities in adhering to the requirements of the Provincial Eskom's debt relief program, which entails the write-offs of 1/3 of the entire historic debt based on compliance with the debt relief conditions, meaning that big number that we saw that the province owes Eskom, 1/3 of that will reduce based on those approved 11 municipalities. Well done to all our municipal managers in delivering a wonderful application to National Treasury in that regard. Honorable Speaker, as we move over to land, which is still a key economic driver and a priority in terms of the constitution and the resolution of the leading party, we continue to have immense benefits, not only for provincial and local governments, but for communities and individuals. This means that the 6th Administration has concluded our land audit. Thank you, MEC, Public Works and Infrastructure. And as that land audit had been completed, the commitment was reiterated by His Excellency, the Premier, and he made a policy directive and commitment to say public works will still avail provincial and municipalities will still avail municipal land for youth, women, people living with disabilities, and military veterans, for farming purposes and for economic purposes. This will bring much desired revenue for the province, much desired and improved revenue for municipalities, and the support towards desired social infrastructure for the emancipation of our individuals, for trusts, for traditional and rural land councils and proprietors. On infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, the sixth administration spent 22.6 billion over the past 5 years, with on average amounts of 4.5 billion per annum. This excludes any triple P process, this excludes national infrastructure build, this excludes any innovative private sector infrastructure expenditure within our province. Currently we have 176 active projects on our table B5, which is to be completed. We are supporting and implementing the public-private partnership regulatory framework, which was pronounced by the minister, and its public participation process is underway. We welcome the review of the institutional arrangements hindering efficiencies in the infrastructure implementation. Let's hear that again. We realize that there are inefficiencies, and there are areas hindering those efficiencies currently in our system. And the minister has worked on, we've identified those inefficiencies. So the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, together with Provincial Treasury, will prepare these business cases for the access of new financing instruments to ensure social infrastructure is fast-tracked. And over the term, we have spent 9.6 billion on roads and road maintenance and 4.9 billion on housing in this province, Honorable Speaker. The Department of Economic, Small Business Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs has focused on various policies, focusing on industrialization, partnership with corporate SA, business and organized formations, and rural enterprises. The introduction of the Free State Integrated Local Economic Development and Transformation Bill is the first step in the right direction towards ensuring that we produce in the Free State, we buy as a government from Free Staters for the Free State province. And how do we say that? Yes, maofi. Honorable Speaker, in no such terms, nothing for us without us Free Staters. Nothing for us without us. We have invested 3.18 billion over the past 5 years to achieve this mantra. We welcome the Free State Investment Conference. And in order to bolster foreign direct investment, investment promotion is key. And over the past year, under the stewardship of His Excellency, the Honorable Premier Ndati Dukwana, he has brought us to the precipice of introducing an investment promotion entity. We don't know what we're going to call it yet, but this investment promotion entity will focus on catalytic investments. It will focus on the conversion of the 81.5 billion pledges that we've seen during the Free State Investment Conference. And this too will focus on the current and future proposed industrial zones in Machabeng, Butarichaba, Botshabelo, Tabanchu, Karib. And listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, Speaker. These are all in the most rural parts of our province. In the most rural parts of our province, we are bringing industries to the poorest, impoverished, and unemployed people. Tourism, indeed, will form part of this entity, so we will re-establish and redefine the path and reignite our entities towards ensuring that, yes, indeed, Premier, this Free State, this giant, is awake. Honorable Speaker, thank you. Honorable Speaker, to address the state as a budget tool to advance the Free State economy, the matter of paying our service providers on time remains an important and imperative aspect for this government, and failure to adhere to this requirement is detrimental for our SMMEs. We do know this, and we have acknowledged it, and we've heard you, and we've got a system in Treasury where you bring all those invoices to us, and we go and scratch where those invoices are, and we make sure that they go through a process, ensuring that you've done the work, you've completed the work is in line with your SLA, and that we are satisfied that the work is done correctly, and then we'll pay. So ensure your compliance processes are in place, honorable Free Staters of this province. I'm happy to indicate that the number of invoices older than 30 days declined from 497. Yes, we used to hold 61,497 invoices with a value of 4.834 billion. In 2019-2020, it's reduced, specifically in the medical side, it's reduced to 41,325. And that, thank you, Department of Health has substantially reduced this by 2,000 invoices every quarter. So we have embarked on roadshows across the province to provide ongoing support and a platform for suppliers to register their challenges, register where they are late or non-payments, and where departments are not paying invoices. Madam Speaker, excitingly, the Public Procurement Bill was introduced at the National Assembly on the 30th of June 2023, a year ago, and it was passed December last year, and we welcome the transformation objectives of this bill, which will, so outside of that case where they said we must scrap BE, we must scrap set-asides, we must scrap, it's now gone through National Assembly in December. We welcome the transformation objectives of that bill. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, National Assembly. Thank you, our MPs. We would like to say that this bill provides the transformation measures through set-asides, pre-qualification and advancement of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination, meaning the legislative effort to provide access to persons, including SMMEs, small enterprises owned by black people, women, specifically black women, youth, specifically black youth, and of course people living with disabilities, enterprises within a particular geographical area. That means rural enterprises. That means the informal economy that we can bring into the mainstream of our economy using the state for procurement. And in particular, Honorable Speaker, this enforcement of the transformation through the triple BE, which is broad-based black economic empowerment level status, not just ownership and control, but skills development, preferential procurement, people who work within the organization, all gets counted to ensure that your status is at a higher level. So as outlined by the Minister, it also makes provision for local industrialization, and I'm happy to hear that, Honorable Speaker, because often industrialists who invest in our parks and in our SEZs feel that government is not prepared to take up their commodities that they produce in their own province. And this allows a framework for us to then procure directly from those who are investing in our SEZs and producing and manufacturing in our SEZs. Well done, Economic Development Cluster, well done. Thank you very, very much. So as we deal with these designations and measures, we're also looking at labor absorption and enterprise development, among others. So this is all encompassed in this bill. And the province is committed to meeting the legislative supply chain prescripts for fair, equitable, transparent market. So this, with that, all that said, no irregularities, ladies and gentlemen, municipal managers, HODs, SCM, CFOs. This allows us for a framework that allows for us to procure within legislative prescripts. So lastly, this brings us to a review on governance. Governance in this province, and I think mostly in South Africa by His Excellency the President, is imperative. And over this term, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that the PFMA audit outcomes during this administration showed significant improvements from the 2018-19 financial year to the 22-23 financial year. We achieved 4 clean audits at the end of the 2022-23 financial year, compared to only 1, which was the Housing Fund, a little entity under human settlement, at the end of 2018-2019. Congratulations to all of those departments. Honorable Speaker, those departments are the Legislature, Provincial Treasury, Fleet Management, and the Housing Fund. And furthermore, it needs to be mentioned that in this administration, 8 departments improved their audit outcomes, 8 of them, and they're sitting here. There were some tough challenges that we had in terms of management reports, but it is these ladies and gentlemen who sat down committed to improving those management reports, and after doing so, their outcomes improved, and no disclaimer in this province was recorded at the end of 2022-23 financial year. The number of disclaimer, adverse qualified audit report paragraphs reduced with 55% from 47 in 2019 to 21 in 22-23. And while a number of non-compliance legislation paragraphs in the audit reports reduced by 35%, Honourable Speaker, from 207 in 18-19 financial year to 135 in the 22-23 financial year. We continue to work hand in hand with the AGSA, with departments and entities to improve their audit outcomes. And thank you, Honourable Premier, for your leadership to the AGSA and to all MECs, where the trajectory and the statement by herself, the AGSA, says that leadership has will. Leadership has will to make this change in this province. So as we have made progress regarding the strengthening of good governance and sound financial management practices in the provincial sphere of government, we have to do much in our local government. And during this period of our administration, the following improvements also should be noted, Honourable Speaker, is that the unwanted expenditure by departments, unauthorised expenditure decreased by 67%, 67%, more than half unauthorised expenditure, from 617 million to 203 million. Irregular expenditure decreased by 55%, from 2.522 billion to 1.12 billion, more than half. And fruitless and wasteful expenditure also decreased by 22%, from 40.258 million to 31.160 million. While we acknowledge these improvements, we are concerned by the unwanted expenditure, which is still at an unaccepted level, and we implore departments and entities to do more to curb and finalize these investigations. Honourable Speaker, in this current financial year, Free State Provincial Treasury hosted quite a few anti-corruption and also fraud awareness sessions together with the Office of the Premier and our Chapter 9 institutions and various partners. So as we're educating departments, entities and municipalities about fraud prevention, anti-corruption strategies and professional ethics and management, we also will continue with our lifestyle audits. These initiatives do not go unnoticed. Together with the Honourable Premier, on that day, the Free State Treasury won on behalf of the province the best corporate membership category in South Africa during the 16th annual ACFE Africa conference. Congratulations to the team Treasury, to the HOD and the entire team. The criteria was based on support and consistency of the department to host these anti-fraud awareness week seminars, and more than 10 years, the tangible implementation of these strategies applied by the department and municipalities and public entities to curb fraud and corruption in our province. It is therefore mentioned sessions, together and coupled with the successes that we've seen in the governance, Honourable Premier, that we will continue to assist and train, together with SALGA, which is the Institute of Risk Management of South Africa, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, the AGSA, and relevant cyber provincial risk and its impact on businesses and government, which was held in May. We continue to do this as cyber risk, AI, and its legislation has come to the forefront of how we do work. The province's commitment to working with the lady commissioners, the SIU, the Hawks, SAPS, we are steadfast, Honourable Premier, as per your leadership. We are steadfast as we support these investigations that are underway. Corruption remains one of the biggest areas of leakage in our fiscus, both at a provincial level and both at the private sector and at the public sector. Honourable Speaker, lastly, we are building a capable, developmental and ethical state. And whilst we're building a capable development and ethical state, I'd like to welcome the focus on technology and skills. Honourable Speaker had outlined that in detail in his State of the Province address, but I'd like to just outline that we welcome the launch of the Artificial Intelligence Institute, or Hub, that was launched on the State of the Province address by the Central University of Technology, together with the provincial government, as well as the National Department of Communications and Digital Technology. Let me explain the importance of artificial intelligence in government sphere. It's the future that it would enhance planning. It's the future that will collect data. It's the future in auditing. It's the future in optimization of costs. And the metaverse, technology and artificial intelligence introduces a new entry to our provincial economy. Honorable Premier, I can tell you, this space has created the youngest millionaires and influencers from the poorest part of our province. And in Bloemfontein, in phase 6, we have got somebody called Natural Hair Enthusiast with over 65,000 followers. A 22-year-old who's doing hair and beauty for a living, and she's a millionaire, just because of social media and AI. Please give her a round of applause. It is on our municipalities, and I'm going to pause and do this slowly, Honorable Speaker. It's imperative to acknowledge that the South African local government sphere encounters distinct fiscal obstacles arising from the nation's intricate history, socioeconomic disparities, and contemporary economic circumstances. As hybrid and as complex as it is. However, as a province, we remain resolute that with strong and decisive leadership, efficient capacity building, fiscal discipline, accountability and transparency, we will be able to turn around our municipalities just as we did our provincial departments. Honorable members, during this administration, we have spent 13 billion on grants allocated to municipalities. And yes, we continue to lament that it still goes back. But like I said, with the effort to ensure that we build capability for SCM managers and for teams to be able to spend that money, we would be able to turn around. Capital expenditure in our municipalities amounted to 15.4 billion rand. The following improvements have been noted from the 21-22 financial year to the 22-23 financial year, and we must mention that unwanted, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure decreased and unauthorized expenditure by 32% in municipalities overall. 32% in this complex environment, which we would like to see bigger percentage change, but it's an improvement and we need to talk about that. So from 3.9 billion to 2.6 billion, that's how much we've reduced our unauthorized expenditure. Meaning SCM members are now beginning to plan better, record better, journalize better, and irregular expenditure decreased by 20% from 1.05 billion to 846.8 million. Well done. Irregular expenditure, that means that they did not They were able to go through a proper tender process. They were able to ensure that the processes went through specifications, adjudications, evaluations committee. And whilst we acknowledge these improvements, we do remain concerned about some of the other aspects in the expenditure, which is still unacceptable. And we are holding them accountable. And I can assure you, the MEC Makume held a Megloga the other day, and the Premier, no uncertain terms, write a resignation letter if you cannot submit your annual financial statements on time. Write a resignation letter if I do not have proof of documentation when you are doing your journal entries. That's the type of discussions that we're having with municipalities. And we implore impacts and municipalities and entities to do so much more to curb and to finalize outstanding investigations, because those outstanding investigations is still keeping these unauthorized irregular expenditure at such a high level. So we are pleased to announce that our province has advanced in the submission of our financial statements after we all had to stand at the AGSA. I brought Mr. Adwa, Honorable Speaker, a cup of coffee that day as we were waiting for the bell to ring like Wall Street ding dong as they were submitting their financial statements. But we have improved the submission of financial statements on time. 87% of our municipalities submitted annual financial statements on time, relative to only 57% in the previous financial years. So thank you to those who are committed and those who will remain committed as they complete their term in the local government sphere. The South African Auditor General observed a noteworthy enhancement in the annual financial statement submissions, and in the most recent municipal cycle, Kopanong local municipality and Tokologo municipalities have advanced to qualified audit opinions from disclaimers. Congratulations. There were 3 years outstanding annual financial statements for those municipalities. They have submitted and they have advanced to qualified. Much needs to be done, but we are going in the right direction. So, Honorable Speaker, as we're seeing the improvement and the trajectory of our municipal sphere, there is still much needed processes to create systems. And why are we saying systems? Because if any change has to happen in the local government, if the systems are in place, we know that that consistent and sustainable processes would still be outlined, and we would want to see that where the taki hits the tar, it's at a municipal level, that service delivery and financial management of our municipalities improve. Coming to the business of today, Madam Speaker, allow me to outline to this august House that the composition of the 24 medium-term expenditure framework, being that this is going to be the final budget of this term, as we present this final budget, we are only presenting a framework of the new budget for the 7th administration. So this is baseline, it's schedules, it's dealt at national level, and it's provided to us through the processes that we've done, TCF and other mechanisms. And we will utilize Section 29. So the framework of the Public Finance Management Act, Section 29 says that while you establishing a new administration, a new legislature, a new executive council, you can utilize 45% of the previous budget. So between April to the 29th of May and after the elections and the installation of the new executive council, this province would use 45 or up to 45% of the previous budget. So as we go into the 2024 medium-term expenditure framework, the province projects to spend more than 135.482 billion rand. So in the new administration over the new 3 years, there'll be 135.482 billion rand, and this is how the budget will be disaggregated for the next 3 years. 43.871 billion in the 2024-25 financial year, 44.960 billion in the 25-26 financial year, and 46.651 billion in the 26-27 financial year. So, Speaker, as we deal with these and this fiscal purse, the provincial equitable share allocation for the 24-25 financial year amounts to 33.090 billion, which reflects an increase of 1.9% when compared to the 23-24 financial year. The grants allocation, and that is grants by national sector and could be earmarked funds, in the same financial year totals 9.548 billion, an increase of 3.2% compared to 23-24 allocation. Lastly, the revenue collection for the province amounts to 1.32 billion, which reflects a short decline of 4.1% because of the upward adjustment implemented through to the 23-24 adjustment budget. If I could explain, this year we shot the lights out. We superseded, I won't say exceeded, we superseded our provincial revenue collection. So we had, thank you very, very much. We had to take it back to its baseline and then readjust it going forward, and hence you'll see the reduction in that upward adjustment. Madam Speaker, earlier on I alluded to the additional funding provided by National Treasury for a carry-through effect of salary increases, and that then would be as follows. 3.256 billion allocated to the Department of Education over the medium-term expenditure framework, and that period addresses the carry-through effect from the 23-24 financial year's salary adjustments. We also, Madam Speaker, that equals 1.040 billion and 1.083 billion in the 25-26 and 1.134 billion in 26-27 financial year. 1.893 billion allocated to the Department of Health over the medium-term expenditure framework, a total of 604 million in the 24-25 financial year, 629.760 million and 658.968 million allocated respectively on the outer financial years. So those three departments never have to worry about a reduction of any of their funding towards salaries, nor do they have to worry about some of the challenges that we may experience given the challenges that we're seeing in the global economy on issues of cost containment initiatives. On conditional grants, Honourable Premier, the medium-term expenditure framework ahead is provided and allocated with 27.936 billion rand through conditional grants. These allocations are meant to address two key issues. One, to implement national priorities, and two, to augment provinces in implementation of their own sector priorities. So, Madam Speaker, in the 24-25 financial year, the province is allocated 9.547 billion, while 25-26 and 26-27, the province is allocated 9.158 billion and 9.229 billion respectively. Honourable Speaker, allow me then to advise that conditional grant allocations per department, health is allocated a total of 3.975 billion, which caters for, amongst others, infrastructure delivery, HIV and AIDS programs, the national health, it's NHI is national health insurance, yes, national health insurance, I guess, and the training of health personnel. So we've been able to appoint new nurses, new doctors. We were able to appoint new staff in clinics, and we are now going to find mechanisms to ensure that they are well trained. Education is allocated 1.764 billion to implement the programs associated to infrastructure delivery, school nutrition, special needs schools, and early childhood development. Agriculture and rural development will receive 262.969 million to provide comprehensive support to farmers and cater for poverty relief and infrastructure challenges, Honourable Speaker. The allocation to community safety roads and transport totals an amount of 2.314 billion and caters for provincial road maintenance as well as payments of subsidy for public bus transport. Human settlement is allocated 993.046 million for the development of human settlements and upgrading of informal settlement. Sports, arts, culture and recreation will receive an amount of 229.286 million for community library services and sports development across the province. The Department of Social Development, Public Works and Infrastructure, as well as the Department of Economic, Small Business Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs will spend 9.576 million in the 2024-25 financial year implementing EPWP programs, as well as the aforesaid allocations include 34.479 million earmarked for the implementation of EPWP programs for the entire province. The implementation of these programs will be delivered by various departments, coordinated and supported by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. If we could pause there for a second, Honourable Speaker, one would ask why EPWP? It takes us 3 years to build infrastructure. You cannot appoint individuals permanently on a 3-year project. So those EPWP programs are meant to bring new people and new interests from informal skills into formal skills. You're bringing individuals who have no idea of contractor development and your CIDB1 to CIDB7 and so on and so forth. So this program is not just a mere temporary employment program. It is a program enabling to enhance skills at a practical level from a government perspective, because government cannot employ alone. So we're urging public sector and private sector to work together to ensure more permanent initiatives in the employment sphere. Honourable Speaker, on infrastructure, During the 24-25 financial year, the province plans to spend more than 5.15 billion on infrastructure investment. The Department of Community Safety, Roads and Transport gets a bigger share of the 40.3%, followed by education at 20.2% and human settlement at 20%. Community safety, roads and transport, 40% of the entire infrastructure budget. Human settlement, 20%. Education, 20.2%. Health at 14.0%, while the remaining departments share the remainder of the allocation of 5.4%. Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that in 24-25 financial year, the province will receive an additional 161.9 million based on performance-based initiative systems managed by National Treasury. If I can explain what this means, departments who superseded their infrastructure and did additional revenue enhancement in investing in infrastructure receives a top-up. So where other provinces have surrendered funds to National Treasury, those surrenders came back to us as the province. So congratulations and well done to the following departments. So this program is aimed at improving effective planning and deriving efficiencies within infrastructure delivery chain. These additional allocations are received by the following departments and are only for implementation of the identified projects. And the Department of Education obtained 87% and qualifies for an incentive allocation of 89 million. Well done, education. The Department of Health scored 81% and qualifies for 72.9 million in addition to what they already allocated. Honourable Speaker, this year the National Treasury's PINK program, it's an infrastructure program that helps municipalities enhance their capability and capacity in infrastructure, has been central to developing local government's procurement, infrastructure and knowledge management frameworks, and it's improving governance and service delivery in certain of those municipalities. For this, we owe a great deal of gratitude to the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs and National Treasury. Kia leboa, thank you very much. To the Swiss who are here, kia leboa means nkosi, thank you, danki, thank you very much. On provincial revenue collection, Honourable Speaker, in the absence of discretionary additional allocations, the National Treasury revenue mobilization becomes more critical for the province. And us hunting for more funds becomes critical for the province because our Premier on my right expects us at 150% and we are moving at 100% slow in Yana, and then it becomes a problem. So we're going to have to hunt for more money so that we can make sure that we fast track all of these initiatives that we intend to do. So we are pleased to announce that the province has outdone themselves in the space of revenue collection. Our provincial revenue per capita, if compared to other provinces, remains much bigger than some of our competitive provinces in our province. So we continue to work on improving systems within departments and Treasury as well as National Treasury to enhance our revenue collection strategy, and it is still on course. As we close the MTF program today, Honourable Speaker, the province estimates to collect 3.686 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework. We will collect 1.233 billion in 24-25, 1.218 billion in 25-26, and 1.234 billion in 26-27. So outside of what National Treasury allocates to us, we've decided, let's be a business, let's call and invest in areas that we can generate more revenue. 1.2 billion per year on average is a big amount. We will therefore work closely with all the departments and make necessary adjustments in year to ensure that if the need arises, we will be able to know how to deal with those proposed allocations going forward. And these details of these allocations are set out for each vote in the estimates of provincial revenue and expenditure, as well as in the 24-25 appropriations bill. So lastly, Honourable Speaker, I'm going to outline the fiscal headwinds per department and per cluster. So in terms of this budget being a very difficult exercise, considering the fiscal headwinds, considering all the geopolitical challenges, the growing debt, our service costs, the chokes of our economy, the public finances, the challenges that we had with our state-owned entities, logistics, Eskom, SAA, We are working towards stabilization of that debt, and we want to narrow this budget deficit. So the province appreciates a balanced approach towards consolidating our provincial budget and includes the expenditure restraint for programs and the provision of support for critical services in our province. We have listened to the people of the province. Our MECs are on the ground. We listen to what the people want, and we want to make sure that we oppose to reverse the challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. We worked hard in the past few months to ensure that the budget presented today is a product of a consultative process. Madam Speaker, as guided by the budget process, I'm happy to confirm that the proposed 24 budget allocations are shaped by decisions emanating from sectoral meetings, from the Technical Committee of Finance. It is also ensured by the Budget Council, the Budget Forum, by Cabinet at the presidency level. Both the Premier and I were there the last time, and we watched how the trade-offs were happening. And of course, our provincial cabinet with premiers and MECs, and of course, all MECs of finance do display some role in that as well. So, provincial medium-term expenditure hearings are also forming part of that, and the national benchmarking exercise. So largely it is fair, it's equitable, and we've got a process and a focus formula that we deal with our budgets. So in terms of our lekgotlas that we've had, Madam Speaker, we want to deal with the medium-term expenditure framework as follows. So when we propose it at a sector level, Honourable Speaker, we looking at the social cluster first. So we've shaped ourselves into a social cluster, economic cluster, justice cluster, and then of course the governance cluster. Madam Speaker, over the medium-term expenditure framework ahead, the social cluster will spend more than 104.46 billion implementing various programs aimed at, amongst others, sustaining provision of quality healthcare services, education outcomes, and continue with the provision of social safety nets, as well as enhancing social cohesion within our province. So the social sector receives almost 77% of our total budget for this province. And in that 77%, Honourable Speaker, the determination to protect the key service delivery programs in the province in trying to balance out the need to grow the economy, education, Honourable MEC Moale, thank you to you and your team for the sterling work done over the past 5 years in achieving #1 spot for the province. In 2019, this province attained 88.4% matric pass rate, and through sheer hard work, dedication, systems, we improved to 89.03%. Congratulations in 2023. We have, as I said, we retained our #1 position, and Honourable Premier also announced that in the next 3 months, we will be handing out 6 completed schools. So, coupled with this, in the next 6 months, 6 schools will be launched in this province. I hope and I'm sure that we'll come to your district, your town somewhere, and we'll be able to open those schools. Honourable Speaker, once again, this is evidence that money is well spent in our province. The Education Department is allocated 17.897 billion in 24-25 financial year, 18.578 billion in the 25-26 financial year, and 19.483 billion in 26-27 financial year. The total the department estimates to spend is 55.957 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework ahead, and this includes an amount of 5.305 billion, which is an allocation on conditional grants. And we also urge the MEC to look at the ecosystem and the eco-chain towards SMME development, that for the Free State, by the Free State initiative, our mantra, that should also happen within how we expend these funds going forward. The Department of Health, Honourable MEC Leto, the constant challenges of lifestyle diseases remain a burden for many health systems. We therefore need to be proactive in dealing with these challenges, which we are, and we're happy that your department's intervention in this regard will save so many lives. Honourable Speaker, in the 2019-20 year, the department screened more than 164,313 patients for hypertension, and that number increased to 1.5 million in the 2022-23 financial year. Screening for diabetes increased from 97,000 to 1.2 million in the 2022-23 financial year, and the visionary approach of the department in appointing community health workers and ward-based primary healthcare outreach teams must be applauded in this regard. Congratulations, MEC. Honourable Speaker, the department is allocated 13.717 billion in the 24-25 financial year, 14.079 billion in 25-26 financial year, and 14.6665 billion in the 26-27 financial year. So that's 14.665 billion in the 26-27 financial year. The total that the department is estimated to spend is 42.462 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework, and that is quite significant for the Department of Health. Honourable Speaker, on social development, Honourable MEC Meko, thank you for your contribution towards this department over this period. MEC, the completion of the treatment centre in Botshabelo was a great milestone for this department, considering the social challenges encountered by the community. We are also delighted that the department made successful strides with the appointment of social workers, especially those that were funded by provincial government for their studies. So not only did you provide them bursaries, you invested in them, and you reinvested in them in bringing them back into the department and creating employment. Congratulations. Honourable Speaker, the department is allocated 1.305 billion in 24-25, 1.354 billion in 25-26, and 1.412 billion over the 26-27 financial year. Over the MTEF, the department is projected to spend just over 4.71 billion. On sports, arts, culture and recreation, Honourable MEC Mahasa. MEC, we wish the 32 young people that are undergoing training for film and television production great success in obtaining the NQF level 5s, and we welcome the 610 creatives that are being recruited for internships within film, tourism and hospitality. Honourable Speaker, the department receives a total allocation of 641.789 million, and then 654.4 million as well as 676.7 million over the medium-term expenditure framework. They are projected to spend 1.973 million. On the economic and infrastructure cluster, and I'm about to conclude, Honourable Speaker, in order to fast-track the much-needed delivery of infrastructure in our province, we will expedite the Minister's outline on the complexities of the PPPs and the concessional loans that had been outlined. And I'm happy to announce that over the 24 medium-term expenditure framework, this cluster will spend more than 25.280 billion on economic and social infrastructure projects. In 24-25 financial year, the province will invest in 5.135 billion, and 59% of this budget will be directed towards exiting infrastructure assets, namely maintenance, refurbishment and rehabilitation, as well as upgrades and additions. MEC Manje, we are excited about the savings that your department has made on water and electricity in government buildings and efficiencies that will bring property management. Your role to bolster job creation and direct impact on GDP is of great importance. So, Honourable Speaker, this department is allocated 2.092 billion in the 24-25 financial year, 2.283 billion in the 25-26 financial year, and 2.374 billion in 26-27 financial year. Over the medium term, this department will expend 4.204 billion. And for the expanded, it will include the expanded public work program. Community safety, roads and transport, Honourable MEC Letsoa Matai. We are seeing, MEC, that this department is our largest revenue generator for the province. Congratulations on the strides that you've made on the decline of road fatalities by 27.4% this year. Your department receives an amount of 3.606 billion. Yes, you may give a round of applause. 3.606 billion in 24-25 financial year, 3.291 billion in 25-26 financial year, and 3.214 billion in the 26-27 financial year. In total, this department is estimated to spend 10.112 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework. Honourable Speaker, we're including the conditional grants, namely the Provincial Road Maintenance Grant, Public Transport Operation Grant, as well as other grants that are allocated to this department subsequently. On agriculture and rural development, MEC Mukwena, well done, MEC, on the introduction of the funding towards the apple farming and beneficiation project, as well as the continued position, as alluded to earlier, as the #1 producer in various commodities. This department will receive 829.092 million over the 24-25 financial year, 879.287 million in the 25-26 financial year, and 915,606 million in 26-27 financial year. Over the medium term, 2.624 billion will be spent in this department. Honourable MEC Makume, allow me to congratulate your department for bringing dignity to our people through provision of houses. Stats SA tells us that in 2019, when the administration took office, 80.6% of households lived in informal dwellings. And, sorry, in 2019, when this administration of office took place, 80.6% of households lived in formal dwellings and 17.9% lived in informal dwellings. Today, we have 84.9% that are living in formal dwellings and 13.4% households living in informal dwellings. We have improved the lives of our people, and this budget will further strengthen that, Honourable MEC. So the Department of Human Settlements will receive an allocation of 1.268 billion in the 24-25 financial year, 1.276 billion in the 25-26 financial year, and 1.190 billion in the 26-27 financial year. The allocation mainly emanates from conditional grants, and thus over the period, the department aims to spend 3.735 billion. It also includes conditional grants, which allocated 77% of its medium-term allocation. Destia, Honourable Meko, once again, congratulations on the investment conference. You have made so many changes to the ordinary lives of individuals who have now started businesses. So as Destia, they will receive 2.058 billion over 24-25 financial year, over the medium-term expenditure framework, and this allocation amounts to 666 million, whilst the allocations for 25-26 and 26-27 will total 684 million and 707 million respectively. The entities will also receive an increase, so as the special economic zone will have an increased allocation to 40 million over the 24-25 financial year. Departments at the centre of government, which is the Office of the Premier, Provincial Treasury, COCTA, as well as the Provincial Legislature, will receive a 5.255 billion MTF allocation amount. Honourable Premier, this office has successfully played its role in coordinating the functioning of the administration. Honourable Premier, thank you for your kind and people-centred leadership, and we have appreciated you and the role that you've played in re-engineering this beautiful province. We are being we know that it is extremely complex and a mammoth role, and you've done exceptionally well in such a short period of time. The Office of the Premier has kept us on our toes regarding the implementation of the 2019 to 2024 MTSF priorities, and this office will receive 632.629 million in 24-25, 643.525 million in the 25-26 financial year, and 656.364 million in the 26-27 financial year. Over the medium term, this office will receive 1.932 billion rand. On COCTA, Honourable Makume, this may be one of the most difficult roles in our cabinets, and perhaps one of the unappreciated roles. So thank you for your hands-on approach, MEC. You are allocated 416.985 million in the 24-25 financial year, 430.226 million in 25-26, and 445.363 million in 26-27, and over the medium term, 1.292 billion. Provincial Treasury, HOD, and to your team, one of the most professional and astute teams in the province. I call them Team Treasury. Thank you for for steadying the course during some turbulent moments. We really appreciate the support that you have provided to all of us. Treasury will receive 367.937 million in 24-25, 380.462 million in 25-26, 394.270 million in 26-27, and over the medium-term expenditure framework, 1.143 billion. Honorable Sefuba, one of the most robust ladies when it comes to budgets. It's not easy to have a discussion with her. So during this term, on behalf of our colleagues across this legislature, we applaud the work of our activist legislature. Your vigilant oversight role has kept us all accountable to all the chief whips and our chief whip, as well as the accountability from both departments and municipalities. Your proactiveness and responsiveness in your work is a tailwind to our democracy. So thank you so much. The Free State Legislature is allocated 284.911 million in 24-25, 295.149 million in 25-26, and 306.7 million in 26-27. In total, the legislature is estimated to spend 886.780 million over the medium-term expenditure framework. As I conclude, Honourable Speaker, no one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin, or their background, or their religion. People must learn to hate. We teach to hate, right? And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. That comes from Nelson Mandela, Honourable Madam Speaker. And last night, as we were talking to some students, the Premier reminded us that we should all act out of love, do our work with love, treat each other with love, respect each other with love. So as I stand before this august house, on the 5th of March 2023 marks the anniversary of one of our former members of our provincial legislature yesterday, Honourable and the late Tate Mahwe. One of our forms reminded of all of our comrades, friends, loved ones, and family that we have lost over this term. Today we stand here proudly in commemoration of late MEC Tate Mahwe and our leader and comrade Jesse Duarte. So today I'd like to dedicate this final budget speech of this administration to both of them in their honor. May their souls rest in peace, in eternal peace, and may their legacy continue to live on. Honourable Speaker, the tradition that the Provincial Treasury and the Department of Education started years back is still vital and a big part of our budget process, and it involves these grade 12 learners. I'd like you to stand, young people, so that through you, Speaker, can I ask those young learners to stand. The competition was open to the districts, all districts in our province. A total of 20 learners were adjudicated to the second round, and 13 schools participated, but these were the top 5 learners that went through a gruesome interview process. Please give them a hand of applause. And I'd like to call them Ms. Vanessa Mogoseng from Maralinang Secondary School in Tamufutsanyana. Yes, you may give a hand of applause. Palisa Ntola from Sechaba Semaketsi School in Mangaun. Ms. Serami from Kananelo Secondary School in Fiziledabe District. Mr. Robin Mpumelelo from St. Bernard High School in Mangaun. And Mr. Neo Abrams from Kananelo Secondary School in Fiziledabe District. Honorable Premier and Honorable Speaker, these are incredible young minds. But let me tell you something else. Old Mutual, Honorable Premier, and I, and a few members of the team, last night we asked them a question. So I'm going to call it confounded or flummoxed. But I think those words are too small to describe how amazed I am at these young people. I asked them to explain the impact of the Minister's Finance introduction of reforms on the gold and foreign exchange. I can tell you their response in that evening. They did it right there, right there. You know what they told us? They told us that they gave us a solution-based answer, that it was informed. They provided us with annotations of its impact towards increasing businesses and young businesses and SMMEs within our province. And if the money is spent on growth, the reduction of loans as a government, the debt service costs, the management of inflationary pressures, and additional flow of money into our economy. So let me introduce you to the next Premier, the next MECs, the young future leaders of our province. Parents, yes, please give them a round of applause. Parents and educators nurture these kids. Parents and educators nurture these kids. Communities protect them. No teenage pregnancy, no drugs. Please, and ensure that you tell the rest of your friends too. Premier, Old Mutual and I have agreed to donate a company to them each. Premier, we will give them a company each. Yes, they are already thinking of company ideas, and if they are not eligible to be a director of that company now, we'll transfer it into the name while the Guardian will look after that company for them. And Old Mutual will open business accounts, CEDA will give them business plans, and we will make sure that they are mentored through bursaries and other mechanisms so that their businesses can grow. Congratulations, young people. Premier, thank you for your guidance towards education and your deep passion for ensuring that we deal with the financially guided and literate through our province. And the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but rising in every time we fall. Nelson Mandela also said so. So, as I conclude, allow me for a moment of gratitude. We give thanks to the Almighty Creator of all mankind, Master of the universe and the day of judgment. In 2019, when we were asked to take an oath, Honorable Premier, we placed our hands on our Bibles, in my case the Quran, and we took an oath to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa, this province, and that we will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution and all laws of the Republic. I thank God subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us the strength and guidance to serve this province as outlined in our oath. I'm incredibly honored and grateful to the African National Congress. Yes, I'm grateful to the African National Congress for the support and faith that you have had in me, a mere branch member of the African National Congress and a deployee of this beautiful organization that upholds our Constitution with conviction and in its election manifesto. To the Minister and Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Masondo, who was to be here this afternoon, the entire team for your guidance after our calls, robust debates, and mostly our friendship. Honourable Speaker, allow me to thank and appreciate the support of the Premier, members of the Executive Council for their collective leadership, friendship, and special bonds that we've created during our call to duty and action daily to ensure that we improve and tirelessly work towards changing the lives of a free stater one at a time. Speaker, to you as the leader of this institution, the arm of the state, and the presiding officers, the chairpersons and members of the Public Accounts and Finance Committee for their support, guidance, and oversight. I wish to thank the Director General, the Head of Department of Provincial Treasury, and all HODs, the political team in the MEC's office. When I don't sleep, they don't sleep either. The senior management and every single individual in Team Treasury, you are my family away from home. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to ensure that Provincial Treasury executes its legislative mandate. And my extreme gratitude goes out to my beloved, dearest family, my closest friends, my support structure at home, and importantly, our gorgeous little boys. I don't know if they're here yet, Joaquin and Kian Brown. I'm everything Everything I am is because of you. Thank you for accepting and loving me unconditionally. You have been my core, a source of strength, and my greatest inspiration daily. To you, the people of this province, oh, there they are. There's my boys with the big hair. To Honorable Speaker, I'd like to thank the people of the Free State Province. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further words, Kia leboa. Shukran. I thank you.
What does the Honorable MEC propose?
Honorable Speaker, I propose that the bill be referred to the Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts and Finance, as well as the Budget and Oversight Committee for consideration and report back to the House. Thank you.
Any discussion? Any objection? Approved. The bill stands to be referred to the Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts and Finance, as well as Budget and Oversight, for consideration and report back to the House. Honorable members, that brings us to the end of the business of the House today. But before we adjourn, Honorable MEC, I'm not a difficult person to deal with when it comes to the budget, but I have the responsibility to ensure that this institution is properly funded, because this institution is given a responsibility by the Constitution to conduct oversight, to make sure that there is public participation, and to take this province through the process of lawmaking, which is what we are doing today. And for us to be able to make all of that, we need the resources. As an arm of the state, not as part of the departments. That is why our budget is negotiated differently through the act called FAMPLA. So to the people of the Free State, I'm not difficult to the MEC, but I fight to make sure that the institution is properly funded to be able to conduct its business. Before the House adjourns, I wish to make the following announcement: that the honorable members and guests should remain standing at their allocated seats as the Sergeant at Arms, the Honorable Speaker, and the Secretary leave the House. The guests should remain to their allocated seats while honorable members leave the House. Lunch will be served for the guests that are here in the chamber at the Fairview Conference Center and lodging. The address is number 2 Fairview Street, Naval Hill, Bloemfontein. And for the guests that are in our